Hi, I'm Rachel McLeod, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and emotional wellness coach. And today I want to come and talk with you about a six-step process that I've been using for quite a while to help clients resolve panic disorder and panic-related challenges. And that's really what I want to talk about here, and so that you can see behind the curtain, see what happens. Really be able to just get some information. This process has worked phenomenally well. I, I, I really panic disorder is one of my favorite things because it resolves really nicely, and clients can go from feeling really like a victim to their survival system to really feeling empowered and being able to support their brain and just really be able to get their life back. And it's just like you get really tangible results because when a panic attack doesn't show up anymore, it's just like this huge celebration. And it's just like I just feel like when we work through this, it's like they just light up from the inside, and and just like the hope and joy start coming back up, like, okay, maybe I'm not going to live my whole life hammered by this. And so because after battling with panic disorder for so long, it really wears you down, especially when the medication you're taking isn't going to touch it. And, or, you're like, how much more medication can I take, without being a zombie? And now my quality of life isn't fantastic anymore. And I'm now panicking about panicking. And well, that's panic disorder, but I'm panicking about what my medication is doing about me. And it's just allowing things to grow. And it really doesn't have to be like that at all. And so I find this really fun. And I say that with all empathy because I know that this is hard. I've had panic attacks. Um, and it's just it's really frustrating when you it's not the frustration is really an understatement, but when you lose control of your function and your system is in a panic attack, or your survival system thinks that it's appropriate to panic now, and there's nothing you can logically do about that because that part of the brain doesn't care about logic. It's not a reasoning center. And so, but there is a way to work with that to totally resolve this issue and just go on to live a phenomenally wonderful life. And so I want to talk about that. And this is really how I treat panic in all cases. I actually do this for everything. So I'm going to do some um I'm going to do some videos about specific disorders for a little bit because I think that would be really helpful. And if you're not getting results, you can really compare your process to mine. Talk with your therapist about that. Um, think about that, stew on that, and see what you want to do with it. Because yeah, this does not have to be a life draining issue very long. I've worked with people to resolve this, and it's taken a couple of months. And definitely you should notice a change with when you're doing this work in a couple of months. You should notice dramatic differences in 2 months. And if you keep at the pace, you can really be resolving it. By 6 months, be done. But I'm going to show you why and how and what we're looking for here. And some people tell me, well, what's the difference between an anxiety attack and a panic attack? And there's not a whole lot of a difference, except for if because if you're in an anxiety attack and that's really big, it can feel very similar to a panic attack. A panic attack really it goes to the next level where you feel like you're either going to die, go crazy, or lose total control of yourself. If those fears are present with your anxiety attack, it's actually a panic attack. And then panic disorder is when you are having panic attacks and then you start to panic about having panic attacks. And so it's really a disorder that can really grow and get bigger and bigger and really make your life smaller and smaller. And the next thing you know, you can't leave your house, or you can't, you're locked in on your couch and you're probably panicking there too. So when you let me show it. Let's just dive in. And if you have any questions about anything I'm talking about, please go ahead and share there. This is from my practitioner brain, and I coach people how to do this for themselves. So, but the way that I do this very experimentally and experientially, and I show them while we're eliminating symptoms, and I teach them strategies to do this and walk them through it repeatedly. so that they do that. But we're like with our gloves on, we're in there and we're resolving stuff. So I'm not used to explaining my process like this. So if you have any questions about what I'm sharing, if you're confused on anything, let me know. I will clarify. And I am officially watching the comment section. Okay. So, okay, so this is a 6 step process. And okay, so the very first thing that I do with clients is I am looking to empower them, number one, with massive, awesome tools that work with the survival system. We want to use the whole brain to resolve this problem, and many interventions only work with some parts of the brain. And that is not going to get us results, especially if the part of the brain, your survival system, is the one that has the problem and you're using an intervention it could care less about. And so it's like, whatever you do, I'm gonna go back to panicking. Thank you very much. And so we want to engage that part to allow everyone to do things, because what happens in a panic attack is that part of the brain shifts you into a survival state, which is panic. And when you go into panic, that part of the brain will shut down other parts of your brain and make them obey it. And so you can't think that well. Your body is under the jurisdiction and authority and the obedience to the survival system, and so is your subconscious and your thinking center. Sometimes you can think with that if you'd like, if you can. Sometimes you can't. Um, but that means that because the boss of panic attacks is the survival system, we need to be really great at working with that part of the brain. And the interventions that I specialize in work specifically there. And so I know that we are going to work directly with that part and get it to cool out and let the healing happen. And so the interventions I teach and equip people with are emotional freedom techniques, thought filled therapy, energy medicine, or EMDR. And really, what I'm looking for in this first thing is I want to make sure we match the person with the right intervention. And that means that they can tolerate it. That means that they like it. And finally, it means that their brain is like, oh yes, I'm all ears. Tell me more. What else are we going to do? If we're using one of these interventions and their brain is like, and that's not the intervention. It's not going to work. So then I'm rustling up my bag, try this one. And then they go ahead and try that one. And we're looking for it to calm down. And once we can engage this part of the survival system properly, everything starts to happen. And the emotional charge of the panic and any other emotions that can be in there, because lots of emotions happen then, is becomes it moves through the brain's healing pathways. And this is really important because that is one of the reasons that this whole problem is happening in the first place, is because the emotion is too intense somewhere. Okay. When we're first starting out, step one is interventions and using the interventions to address panic attacks in the moment. That when we can resolve and stop panic attacks in the moment, then we know we're moving on to step two. Okay. And so that's really it. And so we're matching interventions at this point. And what will happen is that when I do this, um, panic is just one emotion. And so we're looking at all emotions. If we're doing some stuff and you're feeling fear while we're working together, and we can get your brain to discharge and clear that fear, we know that it will work with every other emotion as well. Um, there are very few exceptions to that. And so we're looking for to match an intervention with you that will move emotion, because that is the very first thing. And that's just energy, right? Moving emotion is energy moving in your survival system, right? We want to get that part out of that part of the brain into the front of the brain. And there's a process your brain uses for that. And that once it gets here, usually you don't have any problem with resolving it from there. Is matter of fact, anyway, I totally want to nerd out on you. I got 6 steps to talk about. Once we can start, when we're working together, and this is the very first thing I do with people, is I get them trained and we start to apply interventions to situations where they are having difficulty. Sometimes we can go directly after panic attacks. Sometimes we're looking at other areas, and any one is a win. And once we get your brain moving emotion, and we can tell because you have an emotion, and then the next thing, and it can be an intensity of like a 5 or a 4 or maybe a 7, or maybe even a 10 in this moment. And as we're using the invention, it comes down to a 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, whatever. That's when we know that we've got the right one. So it's very tangible. We know that this is happening. It when you start to calm down. Okay, I think that's as simple as I can make it for you. But where you can tell that the energy is moving out of your survival system because it also is moving out of your body, and it just becomes that same thing. That same. Let me give you an example. Let's say I'm working with someone for the first time and we identify an area where panic takes place. And it happens to be in the morning. Um, Let me use my brain here. I'm making up a fictitious moment to not like spill my clients' beans and stuff. Um, Okay, happens in the morning. Okay, you're taking a shower and you're fine with that, but there's a particular situation that happens when you're in the shower that if that combination, which you've never really looked at before, and we're going to look at together, but if that combination happens, you're going to go into a panic attack. And so we're looking at that together here in our one-on-one session. And what we're doing here is we're looking for when that happens, how are you feeling about that? And I tune you in and I ask some questions designed to pull out the subconscious material, the conscious material, your thoughts, what's going on in your body, and whether or not and how the survival system is interacting. So I want to know how 4 parts of you are interacting with this thing. And once we get one emotional charge, which we may find in your body. We may find many places. Once we get one, we're going to hold on to this one and we're going to use an intervention. And whether we're going to use tapping or we're going to do eye movements, whatever we're going to do, we're going to take a before and after of the intensity of this and get that down as far as we can get it. Usually we can get it to a 0. Um, and so once we have found the intervention that will do that, because sometimes we'll have that emotion held on to right in there and we'll try a couple and it doesn't work, but there's all fast, so it doesn't matter. So I mean, but in the space of 5 minutes we found the right one and go. And so the intensity is reducing, right? And so that's one. And so then we're going to look back in this shower situation and find another emotion in there. And then we're going to keep doing that until there's no emotion here when we're working together. I'm also going to be equipping you to do this in real time so that when you're in the shower, you can use that same intervention right there, where I will not be with you, right? I am not going into your shower, and that's where your problem is. So you need the tools to be able to get yourself out of a panic attack right there. And so, and once you can do that, which is usually accomplished in the first week, probably 3 days of this, then we're on to number 2. Okay. And I have people do this. I have an 8-week program where I walk people through this. I have them do this for 2 hours every day. I have them go hunting for this stuff. And I make this very customized to them because some people cannot hunt specifically for a panic attack because that will create too much panic. We don't want that. We do not want too much distress. I may send you on a hunting thing for another emotion, something to the side of it, something in front of it, something before it, behind it. It doesn't matter. We're going to hunt for stuff and we're going to pull it through your brain's healing pathways over and over and over and over and over again. And when I do this in my coaching program, by the time you're finished, you will have completed 14 hours of this before we move on to step 2. Okay. And that is about 3.5 months of weekly sessions with a therapist, right? So what we are doing is very intensive, and that is one of the reasons why we can get through this quickly because we can pull like panic attacks come because you can't get the stuff up. But once you can get the stuff up and you can get the stuff up and you're off and running and you're like, I'm doing the homework like Rachel said I'm doing, you are kicking butt. By the time people come back to me for weeks round 2, they're in a totally different place. They're in a place of like, maybe this is gonna work. And they come back. And what happens when you clear panic? When you can clear, let's say when we're doing this, let's say we can clear some of these things. People will accidentally resolve panic attacks to the root just on accident, and that's just because once sometimes when the brain is working, it's just stuck on one little thing. And so once you help it with that, like you kind of have to manually help it through its healing process because it can get jammed, obviously, which is what's going on in panic disorder. It's like way jammed. But when you can get it done with a little bit, it'll just, oh, I got it from here. Oh, move out of the way. And it'll do this like it's supposed to outside of your awareness and it'll start resolving things. And so that's why I have people do a specific strategy and use these interventions a lot because even with no skill or building basic skills, they can resolve so many issues that by the time we get to week two, the second step, what happens is they have gotten more brain space back, they're sleeping better, they're already healing. And they have the brain space and the capacity to say, let's go, let's do the next thing. So that first strategy is really to be able to take care of yourself in the day-to-day fight with panic disorder or panic attacks. That's round one, because if we can't do that one, we don't, it's like you kind of feel like you don't want to awaken the kraken, it's like you tiptoe around your life trying not to disturb a panic attack, and boom, one happens and you're like, you're getting emotionally electrocuted, and then it spits you out, and and now you try to figure out even more how to tiptoe around it. And if you don't have tools for this, that is a great strategy. But once you start getting successful and you're starting to like, I mean, clients come back to me after this week and they say, I started to have a panic attack and then I used the tools and I didn't. Seriously. Or they'll tell me, or sometimes they'll tell me I had a panic attack and I used my tools all the way and I made it through the other end. And then I turned around and did some more and I haven't had one since. There's so many ways that this works, and I can get people to, if they'll use the tools and the strategy, which they will, because that's just how it is. um that's how it works. When that then they can catch all the low-hanging fruit, and this helps people just feel so much more confident and emotionally available, and empowers them to really to ready to go to round two. So so I'm going to hold on a second here because I have a question. Do you train, Alex says, do you train people to process emotional agony? Yes. This is, and that the process you take us through increases our overall life functions. Yes, absolutely. Um, Emotional agony is really just, it's pain, it's emotional distress. And this is similar thing um, to panic. I mean, it's all distress. It's all an agony. And so, if it's an agony of shame, we work with the same process. Shame can knock you out and black you out really quick and knock you out of the game, make you want to hide. Anxiety, I mean, panic does a little bit different, but when that panic and agony, let's just say, or shame, right? It's like a pocket of stuck emotion in the back. And in there are really codes for improved function. So we don't want to ignore this. We really want to pull it through the brain because the whole brain comes together and translates this, gets rid of emotional distress, the stuck emotion, because the emotion is supposed to move and it's supposed to empower things. And we don't want it empowering your survival system. We want it empowering your thinking center. Because that's where the part of you that knows how to thrive, the one that has values, the one that has systems and problem solving, we want all that emotional, that energy, we want it here. And when you bring your whole brain together to do this, it moves the emotion, the energy into the right part of the brain, and it converts the information in here that your brain will use for building a new subconscious program, which it will increase your function because it gets processed by the part of the brain that's job is to increase your function. And now that it has everything that it couldn't do that before because all the stuff was stuck, and so it couldn't upgrade you. And I would love to keep talking about that because I promise you I would have a fabulous time because we're talking about neural pathways, and I'm not going to go there. I'm going to save you some of that. But any bit that you get, all that stuck stuff that you get out from the back and you get it through, that increases your function. Your brain builds with that. It builds new neural pathways. It's like if you have a train right now in your life, it's going through, and oh, it can't go this way, so back up the train. Let's try that other way. Okay, we can go that way for a little while. Wait, no, we got to back up because there's a block right there, or there's no train tracks laid there, and okay, and so it takes a long time to get to the same place. But when you pull out this emotion, like a big panic or agony of any kind, and you get it through their healing pathways, what happens is this brain's like, oh, there's that train track we've been looking for. And it slaps it down there. And now you can get where you're going easily, easily. So this is kind of like we're in the beginning, you're doing this because you want to get out of the pain. But when you see that what happens when you actually get out of the pain because you actually move the emotion, because whatever, I'm not going to go there. Once you move that emotion, that's the first piece. But then after a while, you see how much better you're doing with life. And like you're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing things I never thought I could do before. Yeah, because you got a new train track in there that was stuck in the gunk pile. and so and so then people will begin to do this work because it improves their life. And that is really what's fun about this, is that you start to see emotional distress as opportunities to improve your function and your whole life. And there will, and anyway, and so, and there will always be that, because that is, the brain is constantly upgrading itself. And you can get in a really happy, wonderful, amazing place, which is a sign that you are in alignment with your whole, like your all your tracks are laid for all the things you're doing right now. But then all of a sudden you're like, I've seen this, this view, this train track that I was dreaming of, but now I'm here, and now I want to go see someplace else. And you go somewhere else, and you're like, you run out of tracks right here. So you feel frustrated, and you feel upset, and you feel whatever you feel, and you move that emotion, and your brain is like, oh, there's a new train track, and lays it down, and now you can move out even farther, and now you're on a new adventure, and you got to keep laying tracks for that, right? It's like if you were, um, I'm going to use, I work, I'm in the coaching world. And so if you were a coach, and you built your business to, um, you did all the work to get to this place where you're serving people, and you're doing that, and you're living it up. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I want to help more people. Well, now as you go out, you're going to run into where you don't have tracks. And then you might feel frustrated, like, what's the problem? Right? And that, remove that emotion. And then all of a sudden the tracks come out and lay themselves down there. And anyway, that's an example. So boy, we're going to be here for a while, folks, because that was just round one. Okay. EMDR is permissible in coaching. It doesn't have to be in therapy. Okay, Nicole. Yeah, anybody can do EMDR on themselves that wants to. And EMDR is a wonderful self-help tool. And you could pick it up now if you wanted to, but I will tell you, it is not the right match for everybody at the right time, at specific times. What I find when I'm working with people is that, especially with panic disorder, it is not the best match, EMDR. But or also, it's not a fabulous match for people with um, complex childhood trauma. It can be, and that's why I have all these interventions, because we want to match, right? And EMDR can really make things a lot worse or more intense, and that's not a good fit for everybody. And as a matter of fact, with panic disorder, that you don't want things more intense than a panic attack, because you just don't. Um, so it's not always the right time, but if when I'm working with somebody, and it is the right thing for them, and it's the right match for them, I'm absolutely going to be handing that over, training them in that, making sure that they know what they're doing with that. And a lot of times, if you already know how to work with your brain using the other interventions, which I start people off with right away because there are no known side effects, you do the same thing with EMDR. It's just a little bit of a different experience. And so I don't do EMDR with people in coaching, but I absolutely allow them to do it. And in coaching sessions, especially because I do things in a group, when I'm working with people, we're strategizing we're in a group, but we're doing this very individualized. And so I spend about 5-10 minutes with each person, and they go off and use the intervention, and then I keep moving. And then, and then they come back and they tell me where they're at, what they're doing now, and they will apply that themselves. And this is important to me because if when that helps them build the skill to use it independently outside of our sessions, they will get enough confidence. They'll tell me what they ran into. I can look at that with them. We can figure out what's coming up, which part of the brain is having trouble and difficulty, and things like that. And if it does become too intense, they have these other interventions to fall back on. And so, however, I do know that there are coaches that actually do EMDR with the clients, and that kind of scares me a little bit. So I just don't. I'm not trying to get my pantsuit off of me, and I don't know how that works. But I find that it's more empowering when people can do it themselves, and there's not a lot of difference. Um, and so, yes, okay. So yeah, that happens. It doesn't have to be in therapy. None of these things. You can heal your own life. You do need skills for that. And that's really what my coaching program is about, is really empowering people with the tools and the strategies, so that they can do it themselves, but they have the support to do it. And I'm right here looking stuff with them. And so, because I find that when I was doing this in one-on-one therapy, um, I didn't have the strategies built out to be able to send people home with it. But I found that I could help them move their disorder into remission um, in a specific amount of time, which my brain's not going there right now to pull out numbers, which that would be good. It doesn't want a number right now. So, but what I found was I was like, this is awesome. And I don't think this has to take this long. And so then I would hand over homework to them. And so they would work at it at home, and they would come back, and I would hand them homework that they were proficient at. And then ultimately, pretty much everybody that I worked with in therapy is able to do all the interventions, because I realized this is going to take forever if we do it like this. And I'm kind of one of those hit it and quit it kind of people. And though in therapy, in anything, I really move at the pace of whoever I'm working with. And it's okay if somebody wants to take a lot longer, but I'm not going to hold them back for wanting to move quickly. So, okay. So we're moving at the fastest pace that's right for them. Yeah, I was working with a therapist once. I had just been trained in EMDR, and I wanted to like do more because that was fun. What else happens? And I could not get the dude to catch up, or like I'm blowing the situation out of proportion. He was he was afraid of doing EMDR with me, because he had a bad experience with a client. And I was like, okay, but I'm trained in this stuff. Let's do it. And I was like, okay, all right. I started doing it myself as much as I wanted. And I did find somebody to work with. That was fun. Um, anyway, here we go. Second step. So first step is that you can work through triggers that happen in the moment. So you're fighting on the front line. Okay. Now this fighting on the front line, Jazz, is cool, but you can stay there an entire lifetime, because we got to figure out why panic attacks are even happening. And then we've got to do some more things. And so, because we want to stop this at the root, not just at the symptom level, because that you need your time back. You can't be dealing with panic all the time. Okay, so what we're going to do now is step 2 is look for triggers. And so this is where I send people on a hunt. I have strategies where I have you do the work to find the triggers. And we're looking for events that are happening during the day, or not in the day, but during, like, over a 2-week period of time. Where are these things happening? And then from there, where is the trigger? And once we've got that identified, what triggered it. And this could be anything. This could be like in the shower situation. Sometimes this is more of a PTSD thing, which can lead to panic disorder. But um, So let's say that the trigger is the fog coming off the shower. Okay, and that when your system encounters that fog, it sends you into a panic. Okay, now that's the trigger. But now from there, and I have you find these things. And to get to a trigger, you have to move through a lot of emotion and a lot of your, like, a trigger is like, okay, let's pretend this. And here, and then there's all this stuff around it that's emotional and mental, guys. And not this, you just follow me in, like, we're talking energy, we're talking emotion, thoughts, feelings. There's usually like a thing right here around it that's distressing. And once you hit this field, you're like, I don't want to get any closer to that trigger. Okay. We're using interventions here because we've got to get all the way into the trigger and then we've got to pull the trigger apart. And so if you don't want to touch it from here, you're not going to want to touch it from here. So we're going to start using interventions here to desensitize, and then you'll be like, oh, okay, I can get closer. Oh, but here it doesn't feel good again. And so we're going to use interventions here, and we're going to move all the way in until you can get your hands on this trigger. And then we're going to open it up. And we're going to open it up by asking a series of questions that are specifically designed to pull together and pull from your subconscious mind, your body, your survival system, and your conscious mind, and get them to tell us everything they know about this trigger. And so, and we will just start pulling this apart using those questions. And let me tell you what, we're on step 3, which is look for why your brain thinks triggers are something to panic about. And that's why we're looking at this. We need to know, why does this little thing right here, like fog from a shower, make your system panic every time? What's up with that? That's what we want to know. And that's why we're going to get all 4 of those parts of you to tell us everything they've got. And so that's what I have. That's what we do there. And in here, if you, whatever you get, if let's say you get a symptom in your body, right, and you're in here and you can look at the thing and you say, every time, whenever the fog happens, then you're going to tell me what next happens. And it's like my throat closes up. Okay, as soon as we have a body symptom, we can use a mind body intervention, take you back to the original memory, the very first time that happened. Usually that's the reason this trigger is there in the first place. This is what's so dangerous about the trigger. Okay, now this going to the past like that is not okay for everybody, especially if you got massive trauma. I'm not going to pull on that because I want you to be okay. And if massive trauma is going to, right, because we want to do this whole process without making any survive, like, we want to like sneak past your survival system. If we open something really big, your survival system is going to be like, what in the and put the kibosh on everything, shut it down. We're out, we're kicked out, we didn't get to finish. So if you have lots of trauma, we're not going there. If you don't have a lot of trauma, we're going to go back there. We're going to just go back real quick, find that memory, and we're going to use the tools on that to resolve that issue. And this trigger, this little shower thing when we're here, it and your body will tell us everything we want to know. Your subconscious will tell us all kinds of stories that are full of subconscious material, everything we want to know. And your survival system will give us plenty of clues, and your conscious mind will give us plenty of clues. And we're going to take every single one of those clues that they tell us about this trigger, and we're going to pull it through your healing pathways. We're going to use those interventions on it to get it to release the emotional charge, and also to get it to convert it into something that your brain actually understands and can really do something with. And so, and that will typically resolve that trigger. And if it doesn't resolve the trigger, then it will reduce it dramatically, which is awesome. And because a lot of times people with panic disorder have learned how to tolerate a lot of pain, like a 10 level on a scale of 0 to 10, a 10 or 20, right? And by the time we're done with this, we can usually bring it down to a 5 or a 6, which for them is a dream. It's like, okay, I am coasting through life right now. And, I'm not satisfied with 6, but it feels awesome. And so right there, if it's still high, there's some more stuff in there that we're going to work on. If you've got a lot of trauma, we're not going in there right now because we don't need to open that stuff up. And we had a huge victory, and likely we're just going to go at it from a different direction. Okay, but ultimately, that's what we're going to do there, and bring your and really understand this. Whatever you this trigger, when you get it pulled apart enough, you will find a reason that makes absolute sense to you why your brain would think that this is dangerous. And it makes absolute sense. At the top, at the symptom level, you're like, why are you why panic? Why panic? We're just going to go on a drive in the car. Why panic? Right? So you're like that. But once you get down here and you get into the real reason, it's like, oh, totally. I get it. If I were you, I would panic too. Because we need to understand this thing from your survival system's perspective and then resolve those issues. Sometimes anyway, but that's really what we want to do. And so when we can get there with a trigger, which we always get there with the trigger. Sometimes if we can't get it all the way open, we just set it aside. It'll either resolve by itself as we continue working, or as we continue working, we will have done enough other work to lay different tracks in your path. And then when we come back to this one, it will be ready to open and it'll open right up. Or sometimes you come back and check, it's like, nope, okay, all right, we'll see you later. And so that's okay too. Okay. So that's step 3. We want to look at why that's happening. And we're going to do this for many triggers. We are going to track your panic attacks anywhere and everywhere. And we are going to figure out what is triggering them. And as we're going to, and then we're going to resolve the trigger. We're going to deactivate the trigger, or we're going to reduce the intensity. And that is going to unlock a lot of information for us. It's going to unlock new knowledge about you. It's really going to unlock a lot of stuff. And it's going to resolve many, many issues. And then what we want to do is we want to, and I have people do this phase for a couple of weeks. And each week I have them do 2 hours of work per day. So each week is 14 hours. So each week with me, you're doing 3.5 months of therapy, weekly sessions. And you're doing it yourself with some support and unlimited coaching, but unlimited email support. So I have you do this for probably 3 more weeks, which, I don't know, I didn't do the math, 14 times 3, it's a lot of hours. And which means that, and each hour is spent using these interventions. Like if you imagine there's a pile of stuff that your brain has never been able to get to, and it just kind of shoved it in this area that's like not really connected to the rest of you, and it can't get it. Your thinking center's job is to grab it and connect it to the rest of you, or get rid of whatever it doesn't need. And our job, we need to get in there and we need to get all that stuff through the healing pathways, right? So we're going to do it one by one, and we're coming for it. And so it's a lot, and we have to walk the brain through its own natural healing process because it got stuck somewhere and it didn't do it itself. And we use your triggers, we use your panic attacks to figure out what needs to come out to resolve it. Because we could just go in there and do the whole thing, but that doesn't mean, we do a lot of work, but it doesn't mean we get the outcome that you want, that's most important to you now. And so when we use your actual panic attacks, we can actually get those out of the way very quickly, because we can use those panic attacks to take us to their trigger, and we can use that trigger to get to the root. And then we can do this at the root and resolve that. And then the whole thing clears, the panic attacks clear. There may be, and after the panic attacks are out of the way, you probably say to me, hey, Rachel, what about this thing that I'm doing over here? And I'm like, yes, let's do that too. Okay. But we're going to track that. Now, what happens is that this mountain here, we have spent a long time working that through. And maybe we have taken a huge slice out of it. Maybe we've gotten half, maybe we've gotten a third, who knows? I don't know. But all this stuff now is on the other side, and there's all this space in your brain, right? That we just work through. It's like, and then there's and as we did this, this part of your brain is working tons to rebuild. And as it's rebuilding, it's like, hey, we don't need this. It's getting rid of even more stuff. So at a certain point, and this is usually by week 5, what we're going to do now is we want to rebuild, because we've figured out why it's happening. We've resolved many issues, but now we want to rebuild function. We want to rebuild what you actually want, because we did that whole what you don't want. And it's like, it's kind of like the idea, if you get rid of the gunk and don't fill it with what you want, It's like this big house where anybody can move into, which you don't want. We're too old for that at this point. We're too mature for that. We want to, like, I got things to do. Okay. And so, and if I'm going to do this, what do I need to fill up myself with? Right. At this point, we're like, I want to be an amazing mom. This point, we're like, I want to get my paintings out there. I haven't been able to paint. Or I haven't been able to write. I haven't been able to do anything. Like, I want to do that. I want to build this business. I want to, I want to get that raise. I want to go back to school. And then we're looking for, what do we need in here to be able to get there? And so this is where we can really do a lot of great work to build the function for you to be able to do the things that you weren't able to do before because the panic attack was there. And so, and this is more of a cohesion situation. This is and let me tell you a little bit more about this. This is where we really work on, your beliefs. What do you need to believe about yourself? What is in alignment with you? And not just your belief system, but we're also looking at your boundaries. And I'm looking at your boundaries tough because we need your boundaries. The boundaries before are going to be different with the boundaries now, right? Um, if you had a broken arm and it was not okay and it had a lot of pain, you would have a big boundary around it. You'd be like, don't anyone come over here, right? But once your arm heals and everybody's still standing back, you're like, what's up with that? Well, those are where the boundaries were. Now we want to bring that back in and resolve those and make them appropriate for who you are now. Because you're not going to be as fragile. You're not going to be as ill, right? Because this panic disorder is an illness, right? All panic is inappropriate panic. I mean, if you're panicking like in the right moment, like, good on you. That's what your brain's supposed to be doing. But if you're panicking at an inappropriate time and repeatedly, this is an illness. So, but as this clears out, we want to really upgrade you. We want to bring you to present. We want your outer life to start matching who you are now that you've done all this healing work. And so we use the tools that I equipped you with in the beginning to work to bring all this stuff up to date. Because the deal is that anything your brain looks at, it will problem solve. It will tear down and build up. You can guide that function however you need to or want to. We're always guiding it, but sometimes we don't know that we're doing it unintentionally. But when you know how to work with this, you can intentionally guide your brain to build things up for you or to tear things down, which you'll need to always be able to do both. But you want to do it in a healthy way, not in a way that brings illness. So we want it to look at your beliefs, and we want it to start tearing down stuff you don't want and building up what you do want. You may have wanted to build in confidence before, some beliefs about yourself that you've known, but you haven't been able to feel. You don't feel that it's true. You know it's true. People tell you, but you can't feel. Well, we want to take out, why do you feel that way? And how can we build it up? And so we go through that process, and we spend about a week there. And then we want to go through your boundaries. Are your boundaries matching you now? And we spend about a week there. We spend a little bit. We weave those ones toward the end because that has to do with rebuilding, and we want to rebuild. And it's always that flow. Okay, and then and that, I call that rebuilding. But for many people, especially with complex childhood trauma, this is the phase where we are building what has never been built. And you absolutely can. Just because it was not wired in early childhood does not mean you cannot wire it in now. The brain is standing ready to wire anything in that you want to wire into it at any time. And so if there's things that you feel like you missed along the way, well, let's get them going. Let's add them in now. Okay. And that's really what we do and what I teach you to do. Because when you graduate from my program or therapy with me, I want you to be able to do this process for you for the rest of your life, because you will always be outgrowing your system, and you will all in your life, and you will always need to upgrade your belief system and your subconscious function and how your survival system is operating and your thoughts. So that's an important part of this. And then the step 6. Um, and I'm going back to step 5. It's interesting because when there are so many things about beliefs and boundaries that contribute to panic disorder, so many. And this is where we want to resolve the underlying issues and rebuild in the health that will keep you well. And that's really what that phase is about. Because if we don't wire that in, we just, I mean, for instance, if I'm panicking because someone came to my house, like walked by my fence and like poked me with a stick, and I don't fix that stick poking thing, I'm gonna keep panicking about that. I'm like, God, here he comes, that person poker, and I'm gonna keep having to do that. But once I can resolve that boundary issue, and everybody has their own boundaries. It's just that they've been deactivated or not connected or um, put in place, run through. I mean, there's so many different reasons why, but the interventions bring the whole brain together to resolve those issues. And so, whatever issue we find, why you're not able to set these boundaries or protect yourself or maintain these or express, when we get your whole brain to resolve those issues, all of a sudden you can and you are. And that is fun because then it's like your brain trusts you to take care of it and it doesn't need to panic anymore. It's like, okay, I'm just going to send you a message this way since we couldn't, I just was panicking before, but okay, I see that, you've got some skills now. So I'm going to just let you know that I don't like that. And I'd like you to make that stop. And you get nice communication from your brain instead of it doing all sorts of things to get your attention, or it thinks you're not going to support it and so it's freaking out. We don't need that. We don't want that for you. Okay, before I go to step 6, I'm going to answer Brittany's question here. Okay. Um, uh, Bridget asks, is it called anxiety or panic attack? I talked about this in the beginning, and so, but I'll repeat it now, no problems. And when my husband is driving, and he's a very good driver, yet I'll freak out because I'll see bad things happening that aren't even happening. Like I see us slamming into the back of someone. In reality, he isn't going to. Just wondering what that's called. This happens when my kids, with my kids. I'm terrified they will get hurt, even if they aren't. It's awful. Yes. Okay. Um, okay. So, Bridget, the difference between an anxiety attack and a panic attack, which to to me they're both horrible, and I treat them the same way. Um, um, is that with a panic attack is the same thing as an intense anxiety attack, but you have the feelings that you're going to lose control. You're afraid you're going to die or you're going to go crazy. That it has reached that level and has added in those issues. That is a panic attack. Sometimes, anyway. And okay, so you're talking about, so I'm not certain if you're panicking in the car or having anxiety. Both are totally awful, and we resolve them really in the same way. And in this situation, seeing bad things happening that aren't happening, um, this is running along the lines of intrusive thoughts. Like I'm not certain. I'd have to get more into that with you because if you're seeing things that have happened before, you're kind of talking about PTSD. If you're seeing things that are just your mind's being hijacked with thoughts, you're talking about intrusive thoughts. Each one of these usually has its own system, but the same process works for all of them. I have had personally experience with intrusive thoughts. They're awful, and I found that this strategy worked for me tremendously. And with all of that stuff cleared out, I accidentally started taking a B6 supplement that was already in the converted form, and they all went away. And so, and I had lots of health issues, like I had brittle nails, and all of a sudden I started taking that, and my nails got strong. So there's a lot that goes into intrusive thoughts that we want to explore all the things because we want to resolve all of these things at the root. And if it is a vitamin deficiency, you're going to want to do that. I go for this first because this is the easiest way to do this. But it's not a terrible thing to go and just go get a B vitamin supplement. Oh, hold on. Got a phone call here. Oh, goodness. I totally messed up. Guys, I'm going to have to get off here. Um, okay. To take care of the health aspect. Okay. We're going to be all right here. I had a space out. I wanted to do this. And anyway, scheduling issues. Um, so, but let me just say, so, but you do want to find the root issue and you can take, you, I will frequently have people, based on the symptoms that I'm hearing, I will send them off on little mini excursions, because you will always have to deal with the emotional, the mental, the physical, the somatic, the emotional, mental, somatic, spiritual. I don't even know necessarily exactly what that means exactly, but there can be all these aspects here that you do want to deal with, and these interventions help with those. And so I always do that. But if I suspect that there's a health issue in there, then I am having people do that as well, because we want to get this at the root. Okay, and then let's do step 6. Okay, and so Bridget, in there, you would want to follow the 6 steps with the seeing things that are happening. You would want to learn how to work on that happening in the moment, and then at the end, I'm gonna have to take this, guys. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pause. I'm not gonna pause. I can't pause. You stay right here. I'm gonna go outside. I'll be right back. Okay. Okay. Weirdest live ever. No. Thank you guys for staying with me there for a second. Okay. We're on step 6. Hold on. Let's see. Um, okay, thank you so much. I will try. Oh yeah, B6. Try the active form, and you might, let me tell you, talk to your doctor about that. Even though you can go down to your health food store and talk to those fun people there. I love them. I love them. But they are not doctors, and but I really like to do. I like to send clients to nutrition. No, I do. Nutritional therapists are really cool. They're different than anyway. Uh, thanks, Amy. Um, Nutritional therapists, no. Okay, I like to send people to naturopaths for that, because the type of testing is a little different, and it's a little bit more for functional stuff, or functional medicine practitioners as well. Um, anyway, that's a whole nother bag of worms, and I think I have a video on that somewhere. Um, anyway, um, yes, and so let me tell you, Bridget, do something about those intrusive thoughts. They are so taxing and draining, and you know we can become so used to them. Like I I didn't even realize I was having intrusive thoughts, and it actually got worse postpartum. Oh my gosh, that was terrible. And but I they had just become part of the background, and so I didn't even think about it until I don't even know when. And I was like, these are intrusive thoughts. And you would see me, I would have one and I would flinch, like, somebody did something. I'm by myself, but I just saw something really terrible. Like my brain is doing tricks on me. But apparently, um, you know, there are emotional and mental, like I said, there's all these reasons on our end also. But if your brain's not getting what it needs to function well, it's not going to. And that's why in this work, what we're doing is we're supporting healthy brain function. And this is just one avenue of that. So yeah. And yes, great question. All right. Okay, we're on step six. Okay, so let's recap. We have addressed panic attacks in the moment. You're equipped with this, you're doing that. And then we're looking for triggers, we're hunting in, and we're looking why your brain thinks this trigger is something to panic about. And then we're bringing your whole brain together to resolve that reason. So now we're down at the root and we're going to do this multiple times, right? We're finding all triggers. We're doing this all the way to the root. But okay, so now we're at the root and then we're going to start the rebuilding process. We need to come all the way back up. And we need to build in healthy brain function, and we need to build in the beliefs and the boundaries that you need to be able to stay well and to get those hooked up and running and firing well. Step six is we want to now integrate the new you into your relationships, your goals, your plans, who you want to be, and all aspects of your life. This is the new you. And when I talk about relationships, um, you know, when you change on the inside at this deep level, lots of things begin to change on the outside, and it's like having. I um, I wish I could pull from more religious backgrounds, but when you grow up in America and you go to Sunday school, you have all these things in your head. But it's like the concept of pouring new wine into old wineskins. It's like when you bring yourself here and you're doing this stuff, it can really burst and not match, right? And so we want to and we can use this also for further healing ourselves, but from this point, we want to take our relationships and upgrade them, so we can do exercises that are just have to do with you, and work on the relationships in your life. I've had clients do this with their children. They don't want to be interacting with their kids the way they used to when they had all the panic, so we're helping the brain to solve that problem. Come up to date, brain, we've made a lot of changes. What's it mean over here? And we can do that work here so that you don't have to do that with your work with your kid. We can do this with our relationship with food, our relationship with our body. We can do this with our jobs, our businesses, our friendships, our parents. There's nobody that we can't do this with. There's nothing we can do this with money. We can do this with everything. And that's what we want to do, because we want to bring this new you out and create a place for this new you in your life now. And this is the fun part. And this is the part where you get to like build your dream life into things. And we've now taken all this energy we just saved you all this energy that was going to panic attacks. And mind you, this is a full-time job, right? So we just got rid of a full-time job for you. And now what are you going to do with all that time and energy? And then and I have exercises for that, right? And now we're working towards that. We're not working towards that, but we're putting your brain on it. We're wiring that part. We're bringing yourself into alignment with the actualization of the life of your dreams, the life you knew you were supposed to be living if you weren't doing this panic attack thing. The dreams you'd be able to accomplish, the outcomes you'd be able to get, the relationships you'd be able to have, the new friendships you'd be able to create. That's really what this phase is about. And then from there, we're doing it all together, because you'll yeah, you'll be living it up, and then you'll be hit with something like, I don't know, like shame. Shame's one that likes to show up, because it's like there's a whole pit in there. But once you're good at shame, once you're good at fear, once you're good at it, does like it's not okay. Hi, shame. Let's do this. And you can move shame through the healing pathways, and you can use all the tools from steps 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 to really use that to grow, to keep growing. And that's really my 6-step process to resolve panic disorder and panic related issues. And it works every time. I mean, I haven't had a not works yet. Um, and so, and then, I think the other thing to say about this is that there's never a time where you don't turn it, where you're not a human, right? So even though you do this work, it, brains, whenever it comes in contact with something new or something it didn't understand, or conflict in the past that never was activated before because you just weren't in the right situation, it can really panic, right? Because it's like, I don't know what this is. What are we doing with this? And so you just do the same steps that you've been trained in and that you're good at now, and you keep moving. And so, and because we don't expect your brain to, I mean, that's panic. Having a panic attack is not an illness. Having many is an illness, right? And having a panic attack is a normal part of life. We just want that to be accurate. We want to be able to support ourselves with it, and if it's coming from something new, right? You can support yourself with that. If it's coming from something old, you want to resolve that issue at the root. And then you get used to learning about how your system's functioning and how you can support it. And really, that's really the goal. There is not necessarily to be panic attack free. That would be fabulous. But if panic attacks are stopping you, excuse me, if panic attacks are stopping you from doing a function, that's not okay. You want that function back. If you can't drive because of panic attacks, or you can't take a shower, you can only take baths. You can't go here. You can't watch that. If you can't do things in your life because of panic attacks, that's not okay. If your brain has, happens to be walking around, and it sees um something that it's like, this is new, I think we're going to die, and it panics, and then it recovers and it's like, okay, no, we're okay and good and doesn't really need your help, we're okay, and we can even work on that, right? So, but it really helps when you get your life back. It helps when you're free. Um it helps when you can think, right? And you don't have to be afraid, when's this next panic attack's going to come. And in and in this practice, that's one of the things that happens, like, but is it going to come back? And we work on that too. That's one of the issues that we work on, because it's fear, right? And it's fear of losing control again, and we want to work on that. And we can take all that emotion and move it through the healing pathways, so that you're not afraid of that happening anymore. So that is my process. And so, if you have questions, feel free to ask me now about that. And or any, if there's a step in there that you'd like to understand a little bit better, you can let me know there. If there's, I was thinking like outcome. If there's more of that you'd like to know about, um, yeah, this is what Rachel's doing behind the scenes over here. This is how it works, and really how I've been able to get my clients life-changing results. And so there are some, if you want to hear this from other people, there I do have testimonials. I'll put those here now. You can watch those. Um, I'm buying time for any questions. I think that will do it. Okay. I hope. Yeah, there we go. So you can get some testimonials there and just learn how this process works. And I hope this has given you a lot of food for thought, and really, yeah, some inspiration, especially with panic disorder. I find that people don't are we haven't had consistently success everywhere with this, so much that people have hope. And I find that many people, and even though they've seen many therapists and many doctors and many psychiatrists, really don't have a lot of hope. But I hope this gives you hope, and really inspiration for moving forward. If this is something that you would like my help with, and you want to see if my 8-week program is the right fit for you, you can reach out to me by direct message. I'm happy to answer any questions. Let me know what you want to accomplish, what symptoms you want to get rid of, and how you imagine I could help. And we'll chat and see if my program's the right fit for you. And if it is, then we'll get you started right away. So there's also, um, let me see, I have another link I'll link up here. Facebooking. There I am. Actually, I think I need this. I'm just going to add this. Let me see if there's any questions coming in. No, not yet. I'm so fancy. It takes me about 8 steps to share a link. I really haven't figured that out. But here we go. All right. So I'm putting this in here. This is a link to what I'm offering right now. And I'm offering 2 opportunities to work with me. And one is an 8-week program and one is a 30-day program. And the 8-week program is the full overhaul. You get trained in all the tools. It's intensive. And you can read about that there. And we accomplish a lot. And likely more than you would get working in weekly sessions with a therapist over 2 years. And the program costs about half of what that would cost somebody. So it's a great deal for the right person. And the second opportunity is a 30-day, and it's less intensive. And it's the first 2 parts of it. So I'm teaching you how to deal with this stuff in the moment, and also how to find triggers and how to work with that. So very helpful stuff, and definitely will equip you to get the results that you're looking for. So and you can spend quite a bit of time with that and get yourself some phenomenal results. And then yeah, and if you want more, you know where I am. So but that's really it for me. So I hope this has inspired you to understand what you could do and what your life could look like on the other side of panic disorder, and the steps it would take to get you there. So I am going to jump off. Wonderful hanging out with you all, and I will see you at another time.